So somebody asked me to do a kind of walk through the vegetable garden and the fruit trees. So I'll go ahead and do that today. And they suggested when I do a walkthrough at least once a week or maybe once every couple of weeks, and that's a great idea. So from now on, every 7 to 10 days, I'll do a walkthrough, just kind of show you how the plants and the vegetables are doing and the fruit trees. And as I walk through, I'll kind of explain to you what I see and any changes, any type of work or maintenance I need to do. And so that'll give you a kind of brief overview as we walk through the entire garden, vegetable garden, what's going on. But this here is a rhodie. And if your rhododendrons aren't blooming, that means that you're having some sort of nutrient problem. Just like blueberries, you're going to need to fertilize it. So if you have a blueberry or azalea or rhododendron specific fertilizer, go ahead and put that down, and that way you'll get the flowering. I know some people have said that they haven't had any flowers on the rhododendron for years. That means that you're not having enough nutrients. So if you take care a little bit, you'll have these beautiful flowers. I got about a half a dozen different colors here in the front and backyard. So you'll be able to see some of the different colors that I have here in the garden. But definitely am not trimming and cutting back these rhodies like I should. Eventually they just take off and they just overtake the garden. So need to do some proper maintenance at some point here. Maybe I'll do a video on that. So here are some beans. These happen to be sorry it's upside down, but these are Great Northern beans. And I actually buy these from the Stoner Seed Company. I don't know if you can see that, sorry guys. And it's the Stoner Seed Company. And I'll tell you, you buy seeds from them, and maybe it's because I've been buying so many seeds for so long, but they always throw in, you buy a couple packets of seeds and they usually throw in some other seeds. So there's some things that I will grow this year that I typically don't grow, and that's just because they gave me the free seeds. But I forgot about this container. It was in a dark, warm spot. And beans do take off pretty quickly. So within 3 to 5 days, 3 to 7 days, they'll go ahead and germinate. And I forgot all about it. And so as you can see, that middle one right there is kind of leaning. It's still working its way upwards because it was I had forgotten about it, and it was leaning inside the milk carton. I use pretty much anything and everything to start my seed growing containers. Just whatever is free, whatever is available around the house. Of course, I do have seed starting trays and other things as you've seen before, but I usually run out of those, and I haven't bothered to invest in any more dollars into those. So that's kind of where I'm at right now. So I just save whatever I have and use that as kind of my seed starting trays. Now going around the corner here, as you can see, it's early in the day, but I went ahead and I have both the dill and the cilantro started. I did a video on that about a week and a half ago or so. And this one here is the dill. And as you look closely, you can see there's seedlings in there. Now, I put it around the corner of the house because I want it to get the morning sunshine when it's weak. And then as the midday goes on and the sun goes to the left side of the garage, it's going to be in the shade and I'll have indirect sunshine. But as I hardened this plant off, I've went ahead and put a 5-gallon paint gallon bag over it to give it a little bit of extra protection from the sun. Plus, I'm usually only giving it morning sun anyways, and so that way it'll naturally harden it off. Now, the cilantro over here has just been out here only for 2 days. And as you can see, there's little seedlings in there. In order to protect that, I went ahead and just giving it indirect light for a couple days. And then what I'll do is I'll inch it closer and closer. As you can see where the light is and where the overhang is, I'm going to go ahead and move it closer and closer to the direct light, but only morning sunshine. And then over time, I'll move it around the corner of the house where it gets more sunshine the full part of the day. But now as we get closer to summer, what I'll do is I like to put it to the left side of the house because there's those rhododendrons that you saw. So what'll happen is it'll get the morning sunshine, and then when it gets to the hottest part of the day, because I don't want my dill and my cilantro to bolt and flower and go to seed, it will get plenty of shade in the hottest part of the day. Now over here is another success in growing of my lettuce. This one here is half romaine. I'm sorry, this one here I believe is mostly butter crunch lettuce. So I put it here in the indirect light. I put a little bit of cloth over it to protect bugs from eating it, but also to give it an extra little protection. Same situation here. I'm going to go ahead and inch it closer and closer to the light as it hardens off, because lettuce is pretty sensitive at the beginning. So just like these pepper plants that are growing and starting to form their first set of leaves here, I'm going to go ahead and inch it closer to direct light, and so that way it'll harden off, and then before it gets any full sunshine, it'll be good to go. Now over here are some seeds that were started indoors, and they're actually not going to be successful. A friend gave me these seeds and I planted them, and as you can see there's some mold growing, they're rotting, they're not really growing very well. They're pretty bad seeds. And so I went ahead and tried it out, because anytime somebody gives me free seeds, a friend or a family member, I go ahead, or a neighbor even, I go ahead and I plant them so I can kind of show them exactly what I did, and basically thanking them for going the extra mile and giving me the seeds. So I talked to my friend and told him what happened, and he said he had the same problem. And I asked him where did he get the seeds. He says his neighbor had planted these beans late in the season last year, and because it was already getting cold and the plant started dying early, she went ahead and picked the beans early. Well, that's the problem right there. Like I said before, you really need to buy your seeds from actual seed companies and genuine seeds. The reason why you can't take seeds, for example, seeds from the grocery store where you buy some vegetables, take out the seeds, is because they pick those vegetables so early, the seeds inside of there have not matured enough. So like these bean seeds, the pods inside have not matured enough to be viable seeds for actual growing. And so this is the kind of problem we face now. So this is pretty much a wash. I haven't really decided what I'm going to do. I'll probably give it a couple more days and then give up. And then I'll use pull the rotten seeds out. And then I'll use the peat moss for some other things and to kind of fertilize the tops of my buckets, my pots. But that's a little bit about the first part of the session of growing here. Here is the Sesame orange tree. I kind of set up the area here so that way it's not competing against weeds. I see some new growth forming. I'm sure that as new leaves start forming, buds will start forming, and I'll get a few oranges. I'll probably pinch off most of the oranges again this year to let the foliage grow, because as you can see, it's not really in depth. Now here's the corn that I grew. I started them indoors. They're doing pretty good. They're about a foot tall now, and so they're ready to transplant into something else. Now here are my potatoes. I did a video on the potatoes. As you can see, this one in particular, the roots are getting too long. So my to-do task after shooting this video is to get some more soil and cover the stem of that, because more potatoes form, the spuds will form along the main stem area. So you don't want, it's good to have all this photosynthesis and all these leaves getting a lot of sunshine, but you got to bury some of that because it's starting to get a little bit thick and leggy. So I need to go ahead and get some more topsoil in here. This is like the perfect amount of soil, right? You got enough branches coming out, enough foliage, but most of the main stems are buried. So I need to go ahead and come through here and add more soil to this. Now here are my onions. I got lots of onions growing. Hey, baby rabbit. They love my garden, I tell you. He's literally about 2 feet away from me. Doesn't seem to have a care in the world. But he's hiding out in my garden. There's the oregano that's doing really well. Onions are doing really good. Good little stalks in there. I got a couple blueberry seedlings that I planted in perlite. Took the cuttings, grew them inside, got the roots forming. Now they're out here planting. I don't probably need any more blueberry plants, so I'll go ahead and give those away to somebody who likes blueberry plants. Here's my onions that I'm growing, Walla Walla sweet onions. Love those Walla Walla sweet onions. Funny thing is when I'm out in Thailand, where I have an opportunity to cook a lot more, and unfortunately I don't get to grow as much, Plus the weather is so hot, a lot of vegetables don't do well. I've been to the flea market, the produce market in the morning, where the mom and pops, families come. They grow their garden, their own home garden, and then they come to the market and they sell their vegetables to make some money. And I've actually seen Walla Walla onions where they've grown them in their shady part of their garden area at their home. So that is pretty cool. Some more oregano. Here's the mint that I talked about before. I actually made some mint tea this morning. I took the mint, cleaned it, of course, rinsed it off. Then I chopped it up like chiffonade style. And then I put the leaves in the mason jar. And I put a bunch of boiling water in there. And then came back about half an hour later and took out the water and drank that for my little morning tea. Ate a half a banana and half an apple. With a handful of granola, just to have a well-balanced morning snack. Now here are my snow peas, and I went ahead and I had to do a makeshift barrier above the 1.5 foot line where the buckets are, because I was having rabbits, large rabbits on its hind legs, eating the bottom leaves. And they were eating it down to the stem, so I had to get a little bit higher barrier for that. Now here are the cucumber plants, and the cucumber plants are doing pretty good. They have been hardened, or mostly hardened off outdoors here. And I have, of course, the paint strainer bag over it because I'm just giving it about 2 more days of that. You can see the inside the leaves that the first true set of leaves are actually forming in the middle, and giving it a little bit extra protection right now until the next couple more days when my hardening off cycle has been completed. But here are the tomatoes, and they're doing great. Now this one here is a late, I started this one a little bit later, and so you can see that they're only about 2 inches tall, and these other ones are doing really well. And as you can see, there's some more cabbage there. As you can see, let's take a look at these really developed ones. This one here, you can see that the roots are coming off at the bottom end. And look how thick that stem is right here on that tomato. So it's already formed, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, over 5 sets of leaves. And it's a pretty large plant, right? So the tomato plant is fairly large, and you're wondering, why haven't I transplanted it into the ground or into my hydroponic system yet? Well, the problem is here in the Pacific Northwest, we're still getting anywhere from 43 to 48 degrees at night, and that's still too cold for tomatoes. At a bare minimum, you do 50. I think I would say more than 80% of the people plant their tomatoes and peppers at 50 degrees or higher at night. I kind of tend to wait till 55, but it's already almost mid-May, so I may just bite the bullet this year and just go ahead and just get them into their final resting home when the weather gets consistently 50 degrees. But in about 2 or 3 days, we're going to have 43 and 44 degree weather at night, which is just too cold for tomatoes. And so I don't want to stunt its growth or hurt its stems. Now, for tomato plants to have a bigger main stem area like this one here is so thick, it probably can survive a cold 43 degree night, but I don't want to risk it. So what I'll do is I'll go ahead and wait until we get up to 50 degrees and then get them into their final resting home. And so here are the green beans. I had a crow yesterday, or a couple days ago, sitting on top of my car, nitpicking into the dirt here. I'm not sure if they're taking the leaves or if they're just making damage, so I went ahead and covered those ones up. I probably should cover these ones up too, but haven't got around to that. And then I have these other ones covered up because I was on the other side of the house and there were a lot of birds. Now here are the peppers. Here are tomatoes. They're in the seed starting tray. They really need to get out of the seed starting tray, so maybe that's a to-do task I'll do in the evening. And then here are our cucumber plants. You can see the first set of true leaves coming out. I will take a look at them, make sure that bugs aren't eating at them. Whenever you have bugs, rabbits, rodents, insects, they start eating the middle of the chewy, tender, young leaves, they don't really come back. And so you got to really protect your cucumber and bean plants and make sure that they don't eat the main middle stem area, because once they eat that center area, it can't come back and grow. So that's something that I'll be paying attention to here the next couple days. Now let's take a look at okay, so this here is the cabbage. The head is forming in the center, and here's the overall bucket, and nice green foliage. And unlike previous years, because I bagged them up and have the paint strainer bag over, look how beautiful the leaves are. Unlike in the past where I had some infestation of bug problems, none whatsoever right now. And so I'll just throw that bag back on over there. Now today is definitely going to be a lunch salad eating day. And I have enough salad here or enough lettuce, both red leaf lettuce and the butter crunch lettuce, where I'll probably need to come through here, chop them all down, and I'll be having a big old salad for lunch and a big old salad for dinner. But look how beautiful that looks, right? Pretty lush here. And so it's getting a little too tall here. So I'll go ahead and cut that down here in the next hour, have that for lunch. Now here are the 2 sugar snap pea containers that I grew. Now take a look at the size of this, right? So one is quite a bit taller, over a foot and a half taller than the other one. Now guess which one was started first? Well, the one that was started first was actually on the right. So what happened was I started the seeds indoors, of course. And then when they were ready to transplant into its final resting home, I did it in the 5-gallon Home Depot buckets. And of course I drilled the hole halfway up in the middle, and I filled it up with perlite instead of soil, just to eliminate the bugs and keep the bugs down. Now the first one that came out here and got transplanted outdoors, I put it on the left side of the yard, or the house front yard. And what happened it tends to get 1 hour less sunshine than to the right side of the house. And when I had brought this one out, and this same sugar snap pea seeds, which was started 7 to 10 days later, was planted or put in its final resting area here on the right side. So over the last so many weeks, it was basically getting 1 extra sunshine in the morning and 1 extra sunshine at night or in the afternoon. And so that extra 2 hours of growing has it made it grow a lot more successful. And so look at what the size difference is, the height difference is from the one that I brought out earlier, and it was growing on the left side of the house with 1 hour less sunshine in the morning, 1 hour less sunshine in the afternoon. And then the one here on the left, I started the seeds about 7 to 10 days later, and I threw it here to the right side of my car, the right side of the yard. And because it was getting 1 hour more sunshine in the morning, 1 hour more sunshine at night, it's grown about 1.5 feet more, and it has already a lot more flowers. So I will get a quicker harvest from this. Now I went ahead and put both of these over here to get that extra sunshine. So they'll both start taking off, and the weather is getting quite a bit warmer here. So we'll go ahead and get a harvest here on a regular on basis situation here throughout the growing season, and as long as I pick them when they're mature or a little bit premature, a little bit more immature, and not wait for it to get over mature, it'll keep on flowering and fruiting, and I'll have sugar snap peas for quite some time. Now here are the blueberry plants. This one here has bloomed a little bit quicker and earlier, and the blueberries are forming. This one here, there's a number of seeds or a number of flowers that have already closed up, but a few extra buds that are still growing and have not fallen off yet. But these blueberry plants that get so much sunshine out here in the south-facing area of the house, they get the early morning sunshine, and then even as the sun moves across the sky, it's getting all the afternoon sun. So The blueberries over on this side, front side of the house, just take off in size, and the number of blueberries are plentiful. And so that's, by putting your blueberry plants in a really sunny location with longer, 2 to 3 hours of extra sunlight out here on this side of the house, your plants are going to look healthier and better, and you're also going to get more of a harvest. Now here's the Meyer lemon tree, and I don't see a lot of new growth or new leaves, but I do like the fact that we got flower buds forming. And so as soon as those set, then I'll hit it with a little bit more fertilizer just to give it the extra energy it needs. Now I did a pH reading, I did a water stick measuring of my apple tree. And because it has all this foliage growing on here, it is sucking up water a lot quicker. And so I went from watering it every 5 days to now I water pretty much every 3 days or less. And I looked at the meter stick, and it's right in the middle. So it's in the moist area, but it's 2 bars away from being at the first level of being dry. And so I'm going to check this thing here in a couple more hours and see if it's moved 2 bar levels over. Oh, there's a bug over here. And I'll go ahead and take a look at this. Perfect for you guys. So do you guys see that? That is that flying grasshopper, which I hate dramatically. So every single time I come out to this apple tree, I have these flying little green grasshoppers, and they like to chew the leaves of my apple tree. And so I like to pinch those suckers off. So I'm kind of a little bit crazy. Oh, you see that? It saw me. Ooh, there's 2 of them flying around. It saw me and then flew to another leaf. But yeah, I like to pinch those suckers off and kill them right away. But I took a look at the leaves on here. It's okay right now. We have a few leaves which is naturally going to have some bite marks on it and holes, and that's okay. If it gets twice as bad, it has a lot more leaves that have more bugs. Right now I don't have any aphids on the bottom side of the leaves, so there really is no need for me to spray it again with neem oil. Plus we have a lot of rain coming here on and off for the next, in 2 or 3 more days, we've got a lot of rain coming, and it's going to be on and off for a whole week. And so I'm going to hold off on any more neem oil spraying until after the rain stop, and then kind of check on the leaves at that point. Now here is the more mature Meyer lemon tree. I have 2 lemons. I really should have let it continue to grow this last year and not let any lemons form, but I just couldn't help myself. So I let 2 lemons grow on this particular tree. So one is slightly yellow in hue, and it should be ready to harvest soon. There's a smaller one here on the back side. And because they were indoors during the winter, I had to take a Q-tip and hand pollinate it myself, which is something you'll have to do with your Meyer tree indoors if it starts flowering and fruiting indoors. So you'll have to go ahead and self-pollinate. I did a video on that earlier, so you can go ahead and find that video. Sorry, I'm not going to link it because I'm too busy taking care of my garden to link all these videos for every single thing I bring up. But if you look at that list, there's plenty of videos for you guys to watch. Now here is the 4-in-1 pear tree. Love the new green foliage on here. I've got to be making sure, ooh, there's a bug over here. I got to make sure I'm being careful with these tender leaves, with whether it's fire blight or other fungus and diseases that get on these pear trees. Right now it's looking pretty good. There's a few bite marks, not nearly as many as the apple tree, but I'll be monitoring this pear tree. It's really tough with pear trees and peach trees because not only are they susceptible to fire blight and diseases, but once they happen, it's hard to kind of turn it around. That's why I'm so adamant about doing preventative maintenance and making sure your tree is healthy. So for example, if you do your soil correctly, like I told you about like the blueberry plants, if you set yourself up for success early on with your soil, your tree is going to be successful. Then on top of that, if you do the proper preventative maintenance on your tree, then your tree is going to be healthy, and it's going to be able to fight off and ward off a lot of the diseases and funguses. Then on top of that, with your spraying involved, and you do that on a religious basis and do it on your scheduling, you have a cheat sheet or you put it on your phone, on your calendar, and make sure that you don't forget about doing it, your tree is going to be nice and healthy. It's important with fruit trees because it takes so long for them to mature enough to start providing you fruit that all it takes is one growing season where you forget about it or you don't bother to do the spraying, and then before you know it, you have a problem that can't be controlled. Now, contrary to what people think, it isn't a lot of work. I only have a few fruit trees. If I'm going to spray one fruit tree, I'm going to spray the other, right? So if I'm doing horticulture oil and dormant spray in the late winter, early spring, then I come out here and do the copper fungicide spray, and then I do the Nemo spray. It's not a lot of work to do a few trees, and so go ahead and do the proper maintenance, and you'll be very successful and happy about your fruit trees. Now here is another rhodie. This one is smaller. It was planted a lot longer. What happened was I had a bug problem with the rhodie that was here before, and so it ended up having to dig this sucker out, the one that was here before. I gave it a couple years of nothing growing in the soil, and then I actually had hauled away the soil and put some horticulture fabric bags down below, garden tarp down below, and then after a couple seasons I went ahead and replanted or planted a new rhododendron. But I got a bunch of rhodies here, and some are just about to fruit or flower. So you see this one here, but I love this purplish pink one. The flowers on here are just amazing, and so take a look at that. These are great. These ones here are 6-7 feet tall, so beautiful flowers going on here. So that's a little bit about the walkthrough garden today. What I'll do is, since next week is going to be a rainy week, I'll do a walkthrough on the indoor seedlings and the indoor plants that I have indoors. I have a lot of seeds that I planted indoors, so let me give you a recap of how those are doing indoors next week when it's raining and I'm kind of stuck indoors a lot more. So that's a little bit of the walkthrough today. If you have any questions, just let me know.